Hello traders, welcome to the weekly market overview with me, Pierre at PAFX. I hope you all had a great trading week, and the last week been a great week for us in PAFX. Those of you who follow me or follow our page PAFX at Facebook, seen for sure all the great trade we've been taking. So it was a wonderful week both for me and for my lovely students and followers that follow our or those who've been subscribing to our trading and chat room. You are all welcome to do so. We still have the offer for the summer until the end of August, where you get $20 off the first month for the chat room subscription. All you need to do is go to www.pa-fx.com and click on the link for the chat room and use the coupon code SUMMER to be able to join our trading room. Well, for those of you who've been seeing this for the first time, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and please do not forget, if you like these videos, hit the like button. So as usual, we will start with the disclaimer. I want you to read it carefully to know about the risk involved in trading, and that these sessions are only the way I see and the way I will trade the market. They not to be seen as a signal in any way. So I think we're gonna start where we ended last week today, but as first we're gonna take a look a little bit about the news we have for the next week. We see that Monday there is no major events. Tuesday we have only one major event, that is for the sterling and the average earnings. Good to keep an eye on that, because the average earnings for the UK been going down since March, as you see, and now we are at 2.5, and the expectation is to not be is unchanged. Wednesday it's gonna be a bank holiday for French and Italian banks. We do have also from Aussie wage price index, CPI year on year for the sterling, another important event, very important. Also the inflation been going down and seems stabilized at 2.4 the last 3 months. So with the sterling going almost in a waterfall, it would need some good news on inflation, at least that it keep halting and not keep going lower, to maybe give the sterling some strength. From the US we have the crude oil inventory, retail sales, and core retail sales, also important events to keep an eye at. Thursday, from the Aussie employment change and unemployment rate, sterling retail sales, and building permit for the US. And Friday, RBA government low speech, gonna be an important speak actually, and CPI from the Canadian. So these are the planned event. While it seems like the situation that been happening with the Turkish lira, especially last Friday, when we saw this very strong sell-off of the Turkish lira, gonna be the main event, I think, to keep an eye at. You need to really keep following those headlines, and since I want to talk about this a little bit more today, I will not be covering as many pairs as I used to do. So we're gonna be covering the situation with the Turkish lira, what's going on, why it's affecting everything else, and especially the emerging markets, and it dragging the euro with it as well. So you need to have some information about that, and I will try to explain as much as I can, show you some articles to probably do your own reading on it. and to understand what's going on. So that's why we're gonna be covering less market today. So as you see, guys, last week, this is the weekly chart. It was a major move to the upside the whole week, and as you see, it is like 30% or so, and most of the move was made on last Friday. Yeah, so it started early, but Friday was the main sell-off of the Turkish lira. Everything started with this headlines about the reports about the ECB is concerned about exposure to Turkey. Yeah, so the euro fell 0.5% against the dollar after reports that the ECB official announced it about European banks' exposure to Turkey. So, and the data from the Bank of International Settlement showed that Spanish banks are due to 83.3 billion by Turkish borrowers. French lenders are owed by $38.4 billion, and banks in Italy as well owed $17 billion. So this was the main thing that sparked everything, and that's why the Turkish lira been dragging the euro with it. We're gonna take a look at that as well, and you can read more details about that, which banks they are, mostly BBVA Spanish, Unicredit Italy, and BNP in France. Now, will it stop there? Is there any exposure from other European banks, as any banks in the UK involved? I would expect so. Today's banking system, everyone is borrowing and from everyone else, and there could be some exposure for UK banks as well, but there is no much talking about that yet. I think things will start unfolding very soon, and we're gonna get more and more details about that very soon. If we look at the at another report here from the US, saying that investor dumps European banks exposed to Turkey. So the European banks that been exposed to Turkey, the stock's been also having a lot of sell-off. As you see, most of the bank sectors in the EU was to the downside as well, and we start seeing some talk about possibility to have also English banks involvement. Yeah, but no one is saying exact. It seems like we do here they are talking about HSBC, ING as well, but the amount seems to not be as big as the Italian, French, and the Spanish banks. Yeah, so HSBC also has exposure to Turkey, but at a lesser extent than it appears, according to ABN AMRO calculations. So HSBC shares were down 0.6 in London, but they didn't comment yet. HSBC did not comment anything about their exposure, and I don't think they will do yet until they really find out what's going on. This what is the Wall Street Journal is saying. Now, during this whole sell-off trend, Trump went out to say that he will double the tariffs on Turkish steel and aluminium export to the US, and the market starts selling off even more. Yeah, so will those tariffs hurt Turkish economy so much? I was taking a look at what Turkish export is doing, and if we look at the Turkish export by country or continent, we see that we have Turkish export to Europe 55%, Asia 30%, and the whole America is 7.9%, Africa 6.5%. So for me it seems like Turkey would like to keep being friend with the European on trade and Asia, especially Russia and Chinese, and it seems that their export to the US 7.9% is not much compared with their export to Europe and Asia, and surely that whole 7.9% is not only steel and aluminium. So those tariffs from Trump so far should not be very, very worrying for the Turks, yeah. And if we look at the imports, what Turkey imports, and we look at continent, we see also that Turkey is actually importing more than they are exporting to the whole America, 9.5%. So I'm not sure if those tariffs will do a lot, but it made the investor panic and the sell-off started, and I think zerohedge.com, they did cover a lot of what's going on, and you should visit and make some readings about some of the articles about what's going on. You're gonna find all the details over there about that, yeah. So very interesting and very, very important week ahead of us, and this will not end in Turkey, even though most of the media stream trying to saying that this is only a Turkish issue and stuff like that, but I don't think so. The Turkish is gonna be a very, very important situation that you need to keep an eye at for next week, yeah. So what happened with the Dixie during last week? As you see, Friday the dollar did break this major level that we've been talking about. We're trading above the 95.50 area, and we do have a breakout on a weekly basis. Let me fix this. We do not need to see these borders. All I want to see is this area. So weekly time frame, we broke above this level that we've been talking about for a while now. Every time we've been testing this area, and the 200-day weekly moving average was acting as a resistance. But now, guys, after last week close above these highs, we have a breakout. We have a confirmation of this major head and shoulder situation we have here. So the neckline is now broken. So technically, we are to the upside for a longer term on the dollar, yeah. And that what I've been saying, that as soon as we break above this neckline, we probably need to change our bias from mid-term bullish to long-term bullish on the dollar, because as for now, the dollar being the quality currency that maybe the investor fly to quality as dollar, the Japanese yen been holding well despite this whole move. We're gonna talk about that later. In any case, as for now, and if there is no good news coming out from the Europe, someone saying something, ECB going out saying something to make the market calm down, this will continue, in my opinion. After this break above the neckline, the dollar strength may continue, and the emerging market weakness also may continue with the euro. If we do not get more news about possibility of British banks as well having some exposure to Turkey. So once again, we need to keep an eye on that. So if we take a look at the technical levels, we broke the neckline. Technically the headline, the head and shoulder, sorry, is confirmed. We broke out of this long range here now. We've been here for a long time inside this range. That broken out, stop loss been taking for sure on the euro since the Dixie have like the basket of this index have 55% or more based on euro. So this run here took out many stops, and we have a strong close near the highs. For our time frame, you see it even more here that we this range is now broken, and clearly a strong break, and it is time to look for a possible correction. Maybe a retest to monthly R1 to see if we find more buyers and another push higher. That is what I'm looking at for now after this breakout. Even though many are talking about the dollar should not be so strong right now and stuff like that, and all this is fake and manipulated, I don't know. The technicals are telling us to this is long, and this is what we should be looking to do until it show us that the opposite. Maybe if we see the price going back down below monthly R1 and fail to break back above it, then maybe we could see some weakness. But as for now, if there is no other news that could help the euro and the rest of the currencies, this is to the upside. I'm almost certain on that. What's interesting here, if we look at the gold, despite the breakout on the Dixie, the gold is still stuck inside this range. So the gold did not move much. Usually when you have such a major moves on the dollar, the gold usually do the opposite. So what to read from this is the gold very, very cheap right now, and it cannot be cheaper. Who is hedging what? Who is hedging against this strength in the dollar? Is there anyone holding the gold at this level, buying against all the shorts that's coming in the gold? There should be a lot of short coming in the gold as well, based on that dollar strength. So there's many questions to be asked here. This is a very tricky situation, and in my opinion, that move and that breakout on the Dixie could show itself to be a fake out if we really see gold start moving higher, breaking outside of the box, especially if we break back above 1220 and start moving higher. Then this whole dollar strength thing we saw last Friday could be only a fake out. But who am I to say that? All I have to do right now is to keep watching and keep trading this range. This range is still not broken. It is a very narrow range, and it is consolidating in a very small range, and it is about to give you a strong momentum move. The question is, in which direction? Will the gold really break to the downside and keep going lower, since the dollar broke to the upside? So this is something we need to really keep an eye at for next week, and keep watching this little range. Yeah, a break to the upside would mean that the market start really having fear and want to hedge in gold to protect their positions. Yeah, but as for now, investors seems not to be interested of gold. I mean, if we look at the stock markets in the US, the Dow been going up very nicely. If we look at the S&P 500, been going up, rallying very nicely. Euphoria, no one is in fear at all. They've been buying every dip that happening in the market, so that's why gold was not interesting yet. As you see here, Dow as well, they've been buying every dip, so that's why you're still seeing the gold is stuck here, and despite this dollar Dixie breakout, the gold maintained in the same range. Yeah, when this kind of things start happening, I start to get a little bit worried and more cautious, and I do not trust all the breakouts until I see the gold making the move. As for now, there is nothing on that front yet. Okay, US oil, the crude oil still bearish, we could say, on the 4-hour time frame, but really very hard traded, and it is going from level to level. We've been inside this range for a while. Last week we broke outside of it, reached my support level that I've been talking about, the 66.10 or 12 in this case here, and found support back inside the box. Also a lot of concern, what will happen. Are we going to see supply cut from Iran or not? We know that there is a lot of issue going on about the US sanction on Iran, and that Europe is not happy much about that. The Chinese are defending that as well. So there is much going on even there that we should keep an eye at. As for now, it is still looking as possible bearish continuation. On the daily, you see that we did find support at this important level. Yeah, so 66.10, it is an important level. The 200 moving average is getting closer and closer. We should keep an eye on that level as support level. As far as it is holding, it is a buy level on oil. Yeah, and bounce until you see that broken, then it will open the door possibly for more downside to probably reach the 200 moving average, or to test these lows down here. Yeah, but if you can, I would say stay out of it so far. Aussie Jappy, we reached the bottom of the range here, as you see, and it looks pressured. The highs are getting lower, and we do see some pressure here. For next week, any break and close below the lows here will open the door for more downside for the pair. On the daily, you see it clearly. The highs are getting lower and we're building pressure to break the lows here. So keep an eye on this level. It is a very, very important support level. You could get a bounce from here, but I am actually more interested about the break to the downside. I'm expecting if this what's going on between Trump and the rest of the world keep continuing, then JAPI may once again start acting as a safe haven and getting stronger against the rest. So if we got a break, then look for the retest and continuation lower. Otherwise, this is a support, and you need to keep seeing this level as support level, and a possible bounce from here is possible. Yeah, so we broke outside of this triangle now. It is taken off. The move on the 4 hour, as you see, seems to be very extended, so some kind of push higher is possible. But if that happens, keep an eye on this level here as a possible retest area, something like this, and another bounce lower. Yeah. Aussie New Zealand also broke out and did a very strong push to the upside. Completion of an equal measured move A, B, C, D happened at this level. We last Friday we ended up as an inside day. I am still expecting to test these highs now when we broke above everything else. I'm expecting a Fibonacci extension of this leg now, the D leg, to end at 1.618. yeah, so this is the level that I'm looking at for a possible if we reach that, to start looking maybe for a possible short. We do have some news from Aussie next week. As you see, we do have many Aussie news released, nothing from New Zealand, but we had the RBN last week talking down the New Zealand very, very strongly. So that's what I'm looking at for the New Zealand. Aussie USD, we broke below a major support level. I talked about that last week. This very important area is now broken. There's nothing below that until we reach down here toward this support down here. Yeah, so you see the weekly close was clear below that level. So once again, everything against the dollar is telling us to go long dollar actually. So for this pair, we broke below monthly S1, we broke below support, 4 hour time frame as well. So I am looking for the retest toward this area. If we get any bearish evidence here in this level, we should be looking to sell. Yeah, you could also draw a Fibonacci retracement tool if you want to use that as any kind of confluence. And our first and good Fibonacci level would be the 38.2 that happened to be at this previous broken structure right there. So start looking for a bearish evidence at this level for a possible continuation lower now after we broke below this area. Yeah. As far as the Dixie keep moving higher, this will also move lower. Euro USD, also we talked about this wedge last week. You see this on the weekly time frame now. We broke out of the wedge, we broke and closed below all the lows here, below the yearly pivot point. We are heading to touch the 200 SMA here. This is it. I mean, there's nothing below here. more than the 200 weekly moving average, that could act as support. But that's it, yeah. In structure wise, next level would be down here as a first possible good support. Of course, we do have some daily structure here as well, but if we look at major swings, this is the first trouble level, and then down here toward the this area here, and the gap that we've got during the French election here, yeah. So very interesting chart. Daily, you see it clearly, we broke below the range, below the wedge, below yearly pivot point, and this is the daily structure, the minor daily structure we've been talking about here. We have another structure here as well, but this is a better structure, and this is a major structure that we should be looking at. So it is a sell the rallies market. Any retest toward the yearly pivot point and this structure here, or probably higher, could be a possible sell level, but I will start looking from this area first for bearish evidence to sell, yeah. As far as there is no other news to help the euro out, to if not the ECB say something to calm down the market, this should be sell only. Sterling USD also reached a major level here. As you see, when we look at the weekly chart, we've had a very strong bearish week. We didn't see such a bearish week since the rally started up here. So we reached this area right now. We closed below this low. As you see, we're reaching all the way to these lows as well. So it is a very, very important level, and it is still a bearish market. But on the daily, we do have a close below, but it was not a very, very strong one. So one could argue that we may see some correction higher from this. But in any case, even though we got the correction, we should keep looking to sell the rallies. I think any correction toward the monthly S1 or toward this level is a possible sell area. So everything depends on how things unfold next week. We do have some news. We start the week with the average earning, CPI on Wednesday as well, retail sales on Thursday. So there is some news event for the sterling, and if these will not be helpful, good news for the sterling, we are surely continuing lower. So a very bearish market, and we should only be looking to sell rallies, but keep an eye on those news. At these levels could be a catalyst to give it at least a push higher, yeah. New Zealand USD also very, very weak after those very dovish comments from the central bank in New Zealand. I will show you a monthly chart on the pair. So as you see, we've got a first impulse AB, then a correction all the way playing above the 200 monthly moving average until we broke that monthly moving average. We broke the trend line, and we broke this major support level. Major monthly support got broken here, as you see. Last month we broke that, and right now, this month of course is not closed, we break in trading below the structure, yeah. So is it possible that in a very long term we are making an A, B, C, D completion down here at where everything started? Well, everything is possible. The look of it right now on the monthly, I do not see major support before we reach this previous low down here. So it is a very, very important chart to keep an eye at, and it looks very bearish so far, trading below the 200 weekly moving average. As you see, we broke below previous support. There is nothing to hold it, as I said, until we reach this low on the monthly. At the weekly chart, we could see this as well as a possible trouble area. The question is where to sell and how fast will this keep moving. Yeah, as you see, Thursday on those comments, we broke the range and kept going lower. So it is sell the rallies on this market. The question is, are we going to get correction higher before we keep going lower? Not sure of that. There is no news at all from the New Zealand next week. Everything gonna be based on how the dollar is moving. Yeah, and if things keep being the same as they ended on Friday on the dollar strength, the euro trembling, and all the other emerging market trembling, this will continue in a fast move to the downside as well. USD CAD found support at this important area. You know that I've been talking about the 1.3000 for a long time, and we kept playing and trying to break the level, but we ended up with a very nice rounded bottom. And Friday, of course, on that dollar strength, we broke outside, we broke above the high of the week, and we had a strong close. So I see a continuation toward the monthly R1 or these highs is very, very possible from here. As you see, we broke above this range, even though we had some good news from the CAD, but it didn't help. The employment number was good for the CAD, but one thing that the full-time jobs was going down very strongly, while the part-time jobs were going up, which is investor saw later after the news release and did not like it. That's why we got the spike down first and then a continuation higher. And I told the guys in my room as well that we've got higher part-time but much lower full-time jobs. So the full-time jobs was going actually down. So any retest toward the monthly pivot point would be a possible level to look for a bullish evidence for a retest toward monthly R1 or probably these highs up here, especially if oil does not find some support and start moving higher. Yeah. USD Chief stuck here, as both are good quality currencies. I mean, the dollar is strong, but the Swiss C is also safe haven currency, and that's why both are stuck here. Both are quality currencies, and it is a little bit choppy now. So I would say try to stay out of this. There is many other charts to work with, as I showed you. USD JAPY, almost same situation, but still the JAPY was a better performer despite a very strong dollar. You see that we ended up the week with a spinning top, still a bearish week for the USD JAPY, which means the JAPY is going up. And yeah, that's showing this situation that been going on, that the gold is stuck, Chief is stuck, JAPY stuck, but still more bearish. Yeah, so any weakness on the dollar will send this in a strong move to the downside if that happen, or any more fear that could enter the market, and that could start in the stock market if the US market also start having some fear and sell off. Then keep an eye on possible gold strengths, Jappy, Swissy as well. That could be the scenario. So as for the Dow 4-hour time frame, you see that we found some support at this previous structure here, and we do have already hidden bullish divergence here on the RSI, as you see. So we could probably see some higher movement toward this previous neckline at least, and probably another bounce lower, or if we get some good news on what's been going on, that we may push a little bit higher. So if we take a look at the DAX, for example, last week, you see that I mean, Europe will affect some of what's going on in the US. In somehow that will happen. The DAX broke this trend line, went sideways, and then Friday, based on what's been going on with that situation and the banking system and all that, there was some fear in the market, and we could say that this double top now came, that got broken, and this move higher here to towards 618 could be a 2618 trade that happened already after the break. We broke in below these lows. We're sitting at this support level here, testing these lows, but if the news and the headlines keep coming at the same way, this will reach this down here as well, if we continue at the same pace as we ended the week. So yeah, that was it. However, I tried to end these less than 1 hour. Seems to not be possible, but yeah, it takes time to explain what's going on. I just do not want to tell you sell here, buy there, without giving you the reasons for that, to help you, to especially the new traders, to learn something every time we do these sessions. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week. Do not forget to hit the like button if you do like the sessions. So bye bye.